Hi, my name is Lexi. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about how to enjoy traveling and participate in all of the eating involved without getting too far off course on your weight loss journey and your fasting. So I read this funny article one time that was saying differentiating between whether you're going on a vacation or a trip. And it was just like all of these different qualifications, like, are you bringing kids? You're on a trip, not a vacation. Are you preparing your own food? You're on a trip, not a vacation. So to be honest, most of my travel is classified under the trip category because I am bringing my kids with me. It is a lot of work. It is stressful and definitely not relaxing. So, but this information or the things that I've learned can apply to a vacation too. But just kind of working around all those different factors when you're traveling with a lot of other people, you have different schedules, and kind of how to look at keeping, just staying on track, but also enjoying yourself. So the first option, of course, is to take the time completely off from fasting. Turn off your timers, don't worry about it, just enjoy yourself, and that's a fine option. Now, I tried to do that last year. I went to California to visit some family, and I took 7 or 8 days off from fasting. Totally did not track any kind of fasting hours. Just ate whenever, whatever, all the time. And honestly, I just did not enjoy it at all. I felt really crappy and just overly full. Now, granted, part of that I think was because about a month after that, I ended up in the ER with a kidney stone. And I think that something was starting to happen with that because I was starting to have some lower back pain on that trip. I remember, and it was really uncomfortable for the last half of it. So I'm not sure how much had to do with the amount I was eating and how much had to do with that. But overall, I just didn't feel great. I did gain weight after that. That was a little harder to get off. Now, I have mentioned many times before that taking a break is pretty typical for me, but when I say taking a break, I mean taking one day off. So taking a whole week off was definitely new at that point. And I did gain some weight, and it took about a month and a half to get back down to what I was at before the trip. So, some of it came off pretty quickly, but then it took a while to sort of get the rest off. But I did get back down. In the grand scheme of things, the weight issue wasn't that big of a deal. But it is discouraging when you have to redo all of that progress. So this past month, I had a lot of travel going on, different situations, and I decided that I wanted to still incorporate fasting into these situations. Mainly just to feel better and to enjoy myself on the trips, honestly. So basically my goal was just to hit about 130 hours total of fasting and to sort of rearrange that throughout the week however it fit into my schedule. And I also really wanted to get 2 full fasts in a week if I could. Now, these were shorter trips that I was taking, so it was easier to do that. If I were taking a longer trip, I would still try, I think, to get 1 full fast in a week, and just again shoot for that weekly hour range. But I haven't had that experience yet, so I can't speak to that exactly. I think that would be more challenging, but yeah, so I'll just go through these different scenarios and tell you what I did each time. So the first trip was just an overnight trip. We went to the Grand Canyon, stayed in a hotel overnight. But it was encompassing Friday, which is my normal fasting day. Now, I could have just fasted Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday that week and had my normal 4-3 schedule. But I didn't want to do that. I can't remember why, but I just chose not to. So Instead, what I did was I just decided that I was going to have a shorter window on Friday. I wasn't going to make it a full eating day. I was going to have a shorter window on Friday, and then I was going to adjust Saturday and Sunday, having shorter windows than I normally would. Again, to kind of hit that goal of the 130 hours approximately. Okay, so we didn't leave until the afternoon on Friday, and I broke my fast around almost 4 o'clock. And I just had like my normal nuts that I break fast with. I think I had like a cheese stick or something. And then we were driving, and about 2 hours after that, we stopped and had dinner together as a family, and we were traveling with a friend as well. And so we stopped and had dinner, and then I just started fasting again after that. So I think it was about a 3-hour window. I will pop in all of the windows from the window app that I use, so you can see what those hours were like. And then the next day, so I was planning on just doing lunch and dinner to make it a shorter day. But however, what happened was I ended up eating breakfast with the family at almost 9 o'clock. I just had a little breakfast sandwich because we were going to be hiking around the Grand Canyon, not hiking, but just like walking the trails. And we were going to have a picnic later, but I didn't know when that was going to happen, and we weren't going to be near the food while we were walking around. So I was just like, I'm going to be active, so I'm just going to have some good protein to start the day, and then later on do that. So it ended up being a little bit of a longer eating window that day than I had anticipated. We did have the picnic in the afternoon, and then we went and had dinner on the way home, and then I started fasting again after that. So it ended up being about 10.5 hours. But really no snacking in between. So that's kind of a big key that you're gonna see throughout this video. And then the next day was Sunday, and I ended up having just a 5-hour window, which normally I would do anywhere from 6 to 8 or 9 on a Sunday. So a little bit shorter than normal, and that kind of offset it. And so the previous week when I left, even though I did have that Friday of eating, I still hit 130 hours. So that was great. And then going into the next week, because I had also adjusted my hours, I hit 138 hours, which is actually more than normal. So, and I have to mention as well, I did eat that Monday too, because it was Memorial Day and I wanted to eat with my family. So I had a 3-hour window again. So yeah, but even with that, I hit 138 hours. So, just adjusting those hours around. And then the next was that week, that Saturday, we left for Utah. And this was just a 2-day trip, super short again. So it was Saturday to Monday. So Saturday would have been my normal eating day anyway. And Saturday I still had a pretty long window. It was about 11 hours, but again, I really didn't snack that day. It was just sort of like eating with the family. I had like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but no snacking. And then Sunday, when I was at my brother's house, I skipped breakfast and lunch and just ate dinner. And then later after that, had like some dessert and a snack. So that ended up only being a 4-hour window that Sunday, even though I was at my brother's house. There were people eating breakfast and lunch, but, I just didn't. And I found that pretty easy to do because it wasn't like we were going out to a restaurant or anything like that. It was just, people eating at home whenever they felt hungry. So it was easy to skip. So that was that Sunday. And then on Monday, I only ate one meal. It was pizza. It was at the park. Not the best choice for one meal because that was literally the only thing I ate was pizza, and I didn't feel the greatest after that. But that was just my one meal I ate within 1 hour. So even though that was Monday, which was my normal fasting day, it was a super short window. And that week I actually hit 142 hours fasting, which is really a lot for me, actually. Like I said, around 100. I've looked back at like my data for the past year or so, and I averaged around 130 hours. So I was just trying to hit that goal, and I definitely exceeded it that week despite having added in an eating day, and it was just an OMAD. So that's why it was still a lot of fasting. Okay, and then the third and final trip that I'm going to talk about was a trip to Universal Studios in Florida with my family. And so this was a Wednesday through a Saturday. So what I chose to do was I fasted on Sunday and Tuesday so that I got 2 full fasting days in. So I just have to mention how crazy this trip was. It was short for what we were doing. So we were doing 3 park days at Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure in Orlando, Florida. Now we live in Nevada, so there's a 3-hour time difference between Nevada and Florida. And our flight originally was supposed to leave at, I think, 5 o'clock in the afternoon and get there at midnight in Florida. Then we would still have to get our rental car and go to our hotel. So even like in the best of times, it was going to be a little crazy with 4 kids, you know, the time difference, getting them to bed at a decent time, then waking up and going to an amusement park. So definitely a crazy trip. But what happened was the day that we were supposed to leave, we got notice that our flight was delayed. And so it was going to be delayed. We were going to get there at like 1 or 2 in the morning, I think. So that was a little stressful. And then we found out that it was actually canceled. So that was like the most stressful, but we worked it out and we were able to do this crazy thing where we got a flight to Ohio, and that was supposed to get in at midnight. And then we were supposed to fly out of Ohio at 6 in the morning to get to Orlando at 8:30 in the morning, and then go to the parks the next day. Yeah, so fun times. And then in between that, we were able to, the airline was going to pay for a hotel for us to stay just to be able to sleep for a few hours. So what ended up happening was that flight was also delayed. So we got to Ohio at about 2 in the morning. I got to sleep at about 3 in the morning, woke up at 4:15 in the morning to get on our next flight out of Ohio to Orlando. So yeah, I got about an hour of sleep, and it was just exhausting. Then you get there, we, got a rental car, checked into the hotel, and went to the parks. So yeah, we did that, and that was crazy. And anyway, but going back to Wednesday, so I had, I think, about an 8-hour window. I stopped eating at the airport. I had some snacks, and I just knew that I needed to stop eating because it was a stressful situation, and I did not want to go into the stress eating and feel really crappy. So I started fasting, and my goal for this trip was to hit 12 hours fasted every night. That was my goal. I mainly hit it. So Thursday, I didn't eat breakfast with my family because it had only been 8 hours since I had eaten with the time change, and they were grabbing some breakfast just at the hotel that we stayed at for like 2 hours. So crazy. Before we left to Orlando, and they're like, "Don't you want to eat?" I'm like, "No, I'm not hungry." Like, I can't believe it's crazy when you notice how often people eat when you're a faster, because like, oh my gosh, my family just wanted to eat all the time. So anyway, but then I ate when we got to Orlando right before before we went to the parks. We stopped and got something to eat. So that's when I ate. And then we went to the park that day, and I didn't eat anything at the park. I did have some butterbeer in the afternoon. That was it. And then we ate late. We ate really late dinner. It was like 9 o'clock when we finished eating, but that's like 6 o'clock my time. So it was all just really wonky with the time change. So I had a really long window that day. It was like 11 hours, but it was only 2 meals and really no snacking. Just that butterbeer, no snacks. So then Friday, I did eat breakfast with the family. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning. And if you look at the times on the window app that I'll show, it's gonna show different times because it adjusts to whatever time zone you're in. So like, even if you stopped eating at 9 o'clock and you were in Florida, like when you get back to your other time zone, it'll show the time zone that you're in. So it'll show 6 o'clock, even though you stopped at 9 o'clock that time. So I know it's kind of confusing, but that's what it is. So anyway, so Friday I did eat breakfast because honestly, the lines at the theme park were so long to get anything that it was just like, and it was definitely not like appetizing food for the most part, so inexpensive. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna eat breakfast because it's provided for us. It was provided for us at the hotel. It was really good breakfast, really hearty. Like I wanna get some good nutrition and protein and fuel for the day. And then like I just didn't really eat at the parks. So we that day I didn't eat lunch, and then we went to the water park that day, and then later in the afternoon we had a slushie. So butterbeer first day, slushie second day. It was hot and humid, so those things just sounded really good. So then again, after we left the parks, we went and had dinner. So that was a 12-hour window again, but with just minimal snacking and two actual meals that day. And then Saturday was our last day, last park day, and the day that we went home. So we ate a good breakfast again. We shared a few bites of pizza. I shared a few bites of pizza with my son in the afternoon. I did buy some delicious fudge that day at the candy shop in the Harry Potter world, and I ate some of that. We sat down to a meal at the airport on our way out, and then I closed before getting on the plane. So it was still like an 11-hour window, but just not a lot of meals and snacking. Then Sunday we were home, and it was Father's Day. I considered having a short window just to offset all of the long windows, but I realized that I would rather just sort of work on building back up my protein. And you know, it was a stressful kind of whirlwind trip, and I just didn't want to make it too hard on myself. So that's what I did. I had about an 8-hour window, and so that week I only got 120 hours fasting because of all of those long windows. And there was one night, I can't remember which one, but I actually only made it to like 10 and a half or 11 hours fasting. But it was just the situation, and I had to kind of go with the flow and do what was best in the grand scheme of things. And I feel like it worked out well, even though I had these long windows. Like, there was just hardly any snacking, and I tried to eat well when I was eating, but I also enjoyed some treats and stuff, and so it wasn't like totally food focused for sure. It was just on focusing on the experience and surviving the experience and all of that. So it's all about balance, really. And I would say that if you have longer windows, just focus on, smaller portions and snacking less. And if you have, and then have short windows when it works out, when you can. And it wasn't that I didn't snack at all, because I did have little tastes of things here and there, but it was just like a taste and then moving on. I wasn't, focusing on finishing the whole thing. So, and of course these were short trips. So if they were longer trips, I would have to figure out what I wanted to do. I think I would do something similar to what I've done on these shorter trips. Either having longer windows with less snacking and smaller meals, or shorter windows when I can. But I think if I had a trip that was like a week long or more, which I can't even fathom, honestly, we don't ever take trips that long. But if I did, I would try to squeeze in a full fast day somewhere in there. I don't know how that would work, but I think I would try to do it. So, Anyway, you just have to look at the situation and try to balance those things out and make sure that you are enjoying yourself, but you want to feel good, you know, like, because in the end, I did this to feel good because I didn't feel good the other way. It wasn't all about the weight loss. That is part of it because I don't want to get too far off track and have to redo everything. But really, it's just about feeling my best and enjoying these trips to the fullest. And gorging yourself on food is just not as fun as it sounds, you know? Rather than doing that, I think it's just better to, you know, enjoy the time with the people you're with and enjoy the food, but just like know that you have a limit. So you just have to kind of taste things more than like focusing on finishing the whole thing, you know? And so that's kind of my experiences, and I hope that that helps you. If you have any travel coming up, let me know if you do, because I want to hear about your trips. And hopefully it's a little less crazy than my trip to Universal and a little more relaxing. But I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye-bye.